The wind came crawling over the hills that night, cold and dry, rattling the shutters of a house that hadn't felt laughter in years. Inside, Jonas McLean sat by the stove, his hands curled around a chipped mug of coffee that had long gone cold. The fire popped, sending sparks up the chimney, but it didn't stir him much. His eyes were fixed on the door like he was waiting for someone who would never come. A rancher with too much silence in his life tends to grow used to it. Wears it like a coat he can't take off. But that night, silence wasn't alone. It carried something with it. A sound, faint at first, like a horse dragging tired hooves across the gravel. Jonas set the mug down and reached for the old Winchester that leaned against the wall. He moved slow, steady, the way men move who've had to fight for their ground more than once. The knock came next. Soft, almost too soft to be real. For a moment, he thought maybe the wind had played tricks on him. But it came again, hesitant, weak. Jonas pulled the door open, and there she was. A girl, or maybe not a girl, not anymore. Her face was pale under the moonlight, streaked with dirt, her hair tangled and wet from sweat. Her dress, if you could call the torn rags clinging to her that, was ripped across the seams. Bruises crawled up her arms like shadows that refused to leave. Barefoot, shaking. But it was her eyes that stopped him. Eyes that looked hollow, like whatever had once filled them had been scraped out and left behind. She didn't step inside, just whispered, voice cracked like dry wood, "I don't deserve peace." Jonas didn't answer right away. He studied her, the way a man studies a storm on the horizon. Slow, careful, knowing it could break him if he underestimated it. Finally, he lowered the rifle. "Ain't my job to decide what you deserve. But standing out there's a good way to die." She wavered like her knees might give. Jonas didn't wait for her to fall. He grabbed his old coat from the hook and draped it over her shoulders. She didn't resist, but her hands clutched at the fabric like she was afraid it might vanish. He led her inside, not saying much, just guiding her to the chair by the stove. She sat, small against the wood, staring into the fire like it might burn away what she carried. Jonas poured water into a tin cup and handed it to her. She didn't drink at first, just held it, her hands trembling. Finally, she sipped, and for a moment her breathing slowed. But then it came back, sharper, ragged. "You running from someone?" Jonas asked, voice low. She looked up, and for the first time, he saw tears gather in her eyes. She shook her head. "Not someone. Everyone." He didn't press her. A man who lives alone on the edge of nowhere learns when to keep his mouth shut. But inside, he felt something stir. A memory, maybe. A time when he, too, had wanted to disappear, when the war had chewed him up and spit him out, leaving nothing but scars and silence. The night stretched on. Jonas gave her bread, patched a cut on her arm with old cloth, but still she barely spoke. When dawn broke, spilling pale gold across the desert, Jonas found her standing by the window, his coat draped loose around her shoulders. She didn't look out at the land. She just pressed her forehead against the glass, as if the cold might numb her. "You don't have to stay," Jonas said from behind her. She turned slow. "I told you, I don't deserve peace. Not after what I've done." Jonas didn't flinch. "Ain't my place to weigh your sins. But I know one thing. If a man out there's chasing you, he'll ride this way. And when he does, he won't be knocking polite." Something flickered in her eyes then. Fear, yes, but also relief. Like she'd been waiting for someone to acknowledge it out loud. That afternoon, while Jonas fixed the fence by the corral, she walked out to him. Still barefoot, still wearing his coat, still carrying the weight of something she hadn't spoken. She watched him hammer the posts, his movements steady, precise, the way a man works when he doesn't need to prove anything. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Jonas didn't look up. "Because you knocked." She was quiet for a long while. Then, almost to herself, she whispered, "Mercy don't come free." Jonas set the hammer down and finally met her gaze. "Neither does cruelty. Worlds full of men paying the price for one or the other. You get to decide which one you want to hold on to." Her lips parted, like she wanted to answer, but the sound of dogs barking cut her off. Low, steady, the kind of bark that meant trouble was on the wind. Jonas's jaw tightened. He grabbed his rifle and walked to the porch. She followed close behind, her steps unsteady. Across the ridge, a rider appeared. dust trailing behind him like a scar. He came fast, but not reckless. The kind of ride a man makes when he knows what's his and ain't afraid to take it back. The rider pulled up at the gate, tall in the saddle, coat dark, gun on his hip, eyes mean. He looked past Jonas, straight at the girl. That's mine. Jonas didn't move. Don't see your name on her. The man spat into the dirt. Name don't matter. Paper does. She signed it. Belongs to me now. And I'll be taking her back. The girl's breath hitched. Her fingers clutched Jonas's sleeve, but she didn't speak. Jonas squared his shoulders. If she belonged to you, she wouldn't be standing on my porch wearing bruises like a second skin. The man's hand drifted toward his gun, slow, deliberate. Jonas cocked the Winchester. The sound cracked the air like thunder. Not here, Jonas said. Not today. The rider sneered, but he didn't draw. Not yet. He studied Jonas, weighed him like a card he couldn't read. Finally, he tugged the reins and turned his horse. You're making a mistake, McLean. She'll rot you from the inside out. Women like her always do. Dust rose as he rode off, but Jonas knew it wasn't over. Men like that didn't give up. They regrouped, came back meaner, louder. That evening, the girl sat on the porch steps, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the horizon where the rider had vanished. Her voice was small, barely carried by the wind. He's right. I ruin everything I touch. I killed a man once. I didn't mean to, but I did. He hit me and I pushed him. He fell. His head hit the stone. He didn't get back up. And I kept running, because I knew no one would ever believe me. Jonas leaned against the post, silent for a long time. Then he said, You think the world's never forced a person's hand? You think a sin written in fear weighs the same as a sin written in cruelty? Don't fool yourself. You're not ruined. You're just scarred. Scars don't make you unworthy. They make you human. Her shoulders shook then, not from fear, but from something breaking loose inside her. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Jonas didn't move to touch her. He just let her cry, the way men who understand grief know to do. 3 days passed before trouble returned. This time, it wasn't one rider. It was 3. The same man at the front, 2 shadows at his sides. They came at sundown, the sky burning red behind them like the world itself was on fire. Jonas stood on the porch, rifle in hand. The girl was inside, peeking through the curtain, her breath fogging the glass. The riders dismounted slow. The leader took off his gloves, smirking. Told you I'd be back. Now hand her over before this gets ugly. Jonas stepped down off the porch, boots sinking into the dust. It's already ugly. Just depends how many graves you boys want to dig before supper. The goons moved first, like they always do. One rushed, swinging wild. Jonas cracked him with a rifle stock, sent him sprawling. The other drew iron, but Jonas fired first. One shot. Dust silence. The leader froze, face pale, but eyes burning with hate. Jonas walked close enough for his voice to cut deep. You come here again, I won't be aiming to scare. I'll be aiming to bury. The man swallowed hard, spit curses under his breath, and mounted his horse. The 3 of them rode off into the dark, but Jonas knew they'd be back one day. When he turned, the girl was standing in the doorway. No longer trembling, no longer hiding, just standing, shoulders square, eyes steady. Why, she asked. Why risk all this for me? Jonas wiped the dust from his hands. Because mercy don't keep score. It just gives. And sometimes, that's all a broken soul needs. The weeks rolled on. She began to help around the ranch, feeding chickens, mending fences, learning to swing a hammer with hands that had only ever known fear. Her laughter came slow, soft at first, like a song she'd forgotten, but it came. And with each passing day, Jonas saw the weight on her shoulders lighten, little by little. One morning, she came to him with tears in her eyes, but this time they weren't from sorrow. She held her hands over her stomach. I'm with child, she whispered. His child. What do I do? Jonas stared long at the horizon, the sun just beginning to climb. Finally, he spoke. You let it live? Because a child don't carry a man's sins. Only what you choose to give it. You want peace. Give that child love. That's how you break the chain. She broke then, not with despair, but with something new. Hope. She fell against him, and he held her, steady, like something worth keeping. Months passed. The riders never returned. Life settled into a rhythm. And for the first time in years, Jonas felt the silence of his house wasn't so heavy anymore. But the question remained, lingering in the hearts of anyone listening. What would you do? Could you take in someone who believed they didn't deserve peace? Could you show mercy to the broken, even when the world told you to turn away? Because sometimes being strong ain't about fighting wars or winning duels. Sometimes it's about opening your door when no one else will. And if this story reached you, if it stirred something inside, don't let it end here. Go on and hit that like button, tap subscribe, and share this tale with someone who needs to be reminded that mercy ain't weakness. It's the truest kind of strength.